So this is a review of Warhorse by Michael Mopurgo. I'm not really sure how to say it. Anyways, we saw this in theater in London in our theater trip, and I can say that the highlight for sure was its technical side, very innovative stuff. The center point was pretty much puppetry. That horses handled by 3 people, that horses handled by 2 people, that horses handled by no, they didn't get down 1 person, but they had all kinds of puppets and they were very, very, very much alive. They were actually breathing. They went into those very minute details. I can also commend its sound. The backdrop was very innovative as well, very inventive. Actors were great, as was the ensemble work. I think I'm gonna highlight vocal work because their voices were. I can understand now how hard it is to actually have that much voice, and also their stage presence, because even though they might have played the most whiny, annoying characters, they were still well played. Like they were properly whiny and annoying. And also in terms of coordination, you have like about 10 people working at the same time with poles, and that can get a bit tricky after a while. You had whole bands playing at certain points. So, scene 1 of the play, you get the look at the first horse. The horse is the central point of the play. The puppets being the main point of the story. This one called Joey. And in the first scene, you have this very dreamy kind of atmosphere. You get the horse kind of being born into the world, waking up, getting on its legs for the first time, sneezing, being annoyed, and going actually with its ear at flies and everything, which they played in the sound, which was very clever. And you got that whole thing. They also introduced a couple of the first puppets, including birds, and these are they use them very cleverly to kind of keep the audience in touch. And what they had was these little birds which could flap their wings, very small, I'd say about this big. And they get puppeteers in there with these huge poles that they just swing, and they're very flexible, so they just kind of, in a very natural route, just kind of just sweep across the audience. These would be birds that would have chirping sounds in the background as well. You also had music being played overhead, and so you have very much the highlights of the scene already popping into view at the beginning. So you have the puppets, you have the sound, you have the backdrop. The backdrop was actually a piece of paper that we see later on actually in the story, which was from a man's sketches who drew the horse, and a boy rips that part off, the main character. He rips that off, and they actually put that up as the backdrop, and they always project backgrounds into there and change the backgrounds. You have like nights turning into day, and you have turning into docks, and you have turning into a village and home country and everything. And then scene 2, you have the capture and the farm, when the horse is taken to the farm. And this is the first ensemble scene, and are they amazing with ensembles? I mean, seriously, people, these are professionals, top notch. You have people coming in with poles and doing a whole coordination scene with reeling the horse into a square, and then you have this auction. So you get introduced to a lot of the minor characters, the kind of like Joker character, the shy protagonist, his drunkard father, the uncle who's kind of condescending, and that kind of thing. And you get the horse being sold after a short struggle, which is very much, I think, to get you attached to the horse, and they do that quite cleverly again. And so they auctioned the horse for 40 guineas instead of what it was supposed to be, which was much cheaper because it wasn't even a plowing horse. It wasn't even a farm horse. And the mother back at the farm is very annoyed with the drunken father's choice, and because that money was supposed to be used for the rent. And so what you have is you immediately get an impression of this very much broken family, very sad, that kind of thing. And the mother says that to make up for it, the horse has to become useful on the farm and to actually make up for its loss. And so Anthony, the shy boy, is put in charge of Joey. And Joey is the horse. We get a whole scene then with him being taught how to plow, how him being reared, the boy riding the horse and everything. And at the beginning, it's a very innocent relationship. It's not a work relationship. And these are, I don't know why I wrote this here. Oh, and these are pretty much the exposition scene because yeah, you're exposed to all the characters and everything, but you also get a glimpse of very, very badly done storylines. People, why? And that came to haunt me later on. I don't know if I just didn't focus on the play because I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning that day and I hadn't had sleep, but it was kind of disappointing, and that was kind of like the herald. That was the point. We got introduced to those very soap opera, melodramatic kind of things of, but father, I want the horse and everything. And he was like, oh God, please, oh no, just leave. It was going, I was liking where it was going, and they suddenly changed the whole thing. And that was when I remembered that the whole thing was going to be a war story, like it was going to be a tragedy, and I'm just going, oh no, oh God. Um, so what happens? You have teaching Joey how to plow, and I think that was when I realized when they changed from the farm to the actual countryside, that I realized the backdrop was changing. I think that was the point. It might have been later on. And you have Joey struggling with everything with the plow, and you get a song because turns out this is also partially a musical for some reason. Face off from bitterness. Why did I write this? Uh, oh yeah, and the reason the father keeps on doing these stupid decisions is because him being drunk, he's always challenged by the condescending uncle. Even though he's never shrunk from duty, his uncle sees him as like inferior because the father stayed in the farm while the uncle went off to the Persian Wars and that kind of thing, and uncle leads a very rich, like luxurious life, whereas the other one seems to be very much modest and just has a farm. They've all worked hard for what they have, and he wins the competition actually. But there's this bitterness which remains. And after some more scenes, Jerry grows up. We get the three man's puppet horse, which has quite a splendorous like presentation. You have this whole song that bursts in its full splendor, with quite symbolically a song about spring turning summer and the blooming of things and that kind of thing. Oh yeah, on the farm scene, we got introduced to the best puppet of all time, the goose, and that goose was amazing. It was basically a comic annoyance on wheels because it just kind of you see a man come in and just going with the goose, just going, and then she come up to people going honk, and people just wouldn't see it coming, and so it would be this kind of comic relief. And after a while, we got used to it. But we kind of actually it was more the dependence kind of thing because such a good character to have. And also one of the things was that I got so used to the goose being this annoying thing that just kind of chases you on the ground that I actually got surprised when it started flying off. Because I just hadn't realized it, it's a puppet on wheels, why would it fly? And suddenly it expands its wings and flies off. So for me, it was this thing of defeating expectations. It was quite nice. So, preparations for war. Suddenly, we discover it's World War One, and we have an ensemble scene again, and they pull out more tricks. In this case, they swing these poles up that they just set up with whole war preparations and everything. They get a whole band marching across. Turns out a circle on stage can actually rotate, and they use this quite a lot. And they have, I don't know, 5 minute long freezes with the actors of the ensemble, and that takes so much skill. I can respect them so much for it, but at the same time, it was quite sad because they overused it. I had about 10 minutes on those war preparations when there wasn't that much to say. And then part 4, they go off to war, and there's just quickly before part 2, I'll make a second video for the second part of the play. Basically, the horse is sold for 100 guineas and shipped off to war. Anthony finds out and leaves his home, and meanwhile, the horses are loaded on, and the play turns a lot grimmer. And then they charge to battle with like 5 horses, and I was going, no way. Because it was so organized, so amazing how they done that. And then you have a cannon, sound just bursts completely. The man on top of the horse, who is another general with the horse, gets blown off. I get a couple of puppeteers lifting him and very slowly putting him to the ground. And he's got this very tense position. So I have this feeling of time slowed down, very tense. You don't know if the horse is gonna survive. And then it's the break, and I will do part 2 now because it's over my 10-minute limit for YouTube.